Okay, Namo Buddhaya to everyone. Sandhya ji, Deep ji, Sneha ji, Namo Buddhaya. And Namo Buddhaya to anyone who is there or joining through the live stream. Namo Buddhaya. So we start the live session for today. And we start with some instructions on how to do Anapanasati meditation, right? How to do Anapanasati meditation. Let us understand the instructions. So you can sit comfortably with your spine straight, right? Don't make it too, stretched. Just spine should be straight. You can sit in a chair or sit cross-legged, whatever works for you. Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya, Namo Buddhaya. Now, gently bring your awareness on the breathing, right? And you have to just be aware of the in and out movement of the breath, right? The breath coming in and the breath going out. For the 15 minutes, next 15 minutes, we have to be fully determined that we will watch each breath. We will not let a single breath pass by without our conscious observation, right? Now, optional. This is optional. This is not necessary, compulsory, but you can keep your attention on one part of the body, like a belly, which is the belly area which goes out and comes in as you breathe in and out, or this nostril area, that means above the upper lip, right? This area where you can sense the movement of the air coming in and going out through the nose. So that is like two areas which you can, or you can, there's no need as such to focus on a specific body part. No, important, do not change the pattern of the breathing. Let the breathing remain as it is, right? If it's a long breath, just know that it's a long breath. If it's a short breath, just know it's a short breath. And if the mind gets lost anywhere, the moment you get the awareness that my mind got lost, or if I prompt, then come back gently to the breathing. Don't go in self-pity, guilt, or doubt, or, I'm not good in my practice. If that also comes, just be aware that that doubt is coming and then come gently to the breath, right? So 15 minutes is we sitting with our breath, right? So we start, right? Sorry. So we start. Let me put a timer of 15 minutes. Fine. So let us start our meditation. Close your eyes, or you can keep eyes half closed also. Keep the spine straight and gently bring yourself to your breathing. Breath coming in and the breath going out. Full awareness of the breathing. Don't change the pattern. Let it remain as it is. It's a long breath. Know that it's a long breath. If it's a short breath, know that it's a short breath. Come back to the breathing. Keep your focus on the breathing. Breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. Full awareness. Anytime the mind gets distracted, come back gently to the breathing and focus on the in and out of breathing. In breath, out breath. Keep coming back on the breathing. Complete awareness on the breathing. Difficult emotions, painful memories arise. Gently come back to your breathing. Watching the breathing with full awareness, with complete determination. Mind gets distracted, come back, bring it back to the breathing. Pleasant feelings come, unpleasant feelings come. We need to bring ourselves back on the breathing. Keep noting your breath as it comes in and as it goes out. Keep observing the breath. Come back to the breathing. Breathing in, I know I'm breathing in. Breathing out, I know I'm breathing out. Any difficult sensations arise in the body, let them arise and gently come back to the breathing. Total awareness on the breathing. Your awareness on the breathing. Don't let even a single breath escape your observation. Full, complete awareness. Keep your awareness on the breathing. And let's now close this meditation. Whenever you feel complete, you can open your eyes. So now we start the continue the book reading, and we are reading from this book, Old Path, White Clouds by Zen Master Thich Nhat Hanh. Today we are reading chapter 50, A Handful of Bran, and it is page 324. Okay. Um, it goes like this. The following year, the Buddha spent the retreat season in Vijayanagar with 500 bhikkhus. Sariputta and Moggallana served as his assistants. Just a second. Sorry, just a second. Sariputta and Moggallana served as his assistants. Halfway into the retreat season, drought hit the area and the heat was almost unbearable. The Buddha spent most of each day beneath the refreshing shade of the Nimba tree. He ate, gave Dhamma talks, meditated, and slept beneath the same tree. By the beginning of the third month of the retreat, the bhikkhus were receiving fewer and smaller food offerings. Food was scarce because of the drought, and even the food reserves maintained by the government for difficult times had dwindled to almost nothing. Many monks returned to the monastery with empty bowls. The Buddha himself often returned from begging with an empty bowl, and he filled his stomach with water to ease the hunger. The bhikkhus grew thin and vain. Venerable Moggallana suggested they all move south to Uttarakuru for the remaining days of the retreat, where food will be easier to find. But the Buddha refused, saying, Moggallana, we are not the only ones suffering. All the local people, with the exception of a few wealthy households, are suffering from hunger. We should not abandon the people now. We have a chance to share and understand their suffering. We should remain here until the end of the retreat season. The wealthy merchant Agnidatta had invited the Buddha and his bhikkhus for the retreat season in Vajrayana after he heard the Buddha teach. But he was away on business and had no idea of the situation back home. One day, Moggallana pointed to a glade of healthy green trees and grasses growing near the monastery and said to the Buddha, Teacher, I believe these plants have remained fresh and strong thanks to the rich nutrients in the soil. We could dig up some of the rich humus and mix it with the water to make a nutritious food for the bhikkhus. The Buddha said, It would not be correct to do so, Moggallana. In fact, I tried doing just that during my days of self mortification on Dangsari mountain, but I noticed no nutritional benefits. Many living beings live on the soil protected from the heat of the sun. If we dig up the ground, many of those creatures will die and plants will be killed also. Moggallana said no more. It had long been monastic custom for bhikkhus to place a portion of the food offerings they received into an empty receptacle set out to provide food for bhikkhus who did not receive adequate food offerings. Swasti noticed that in the past 10 days, the receptacle had remained empty of even a grain of rice or a piece of chapati. Rahula privately confided to Swasti that although no bhikkhu was receiving adequate food, the people tended to offer food first to the elder bhikkhus. Younger bhikkhus received little or nothing. Swasti had noticed the same. He said, even on days when I receive a little food, I still feel hungry after I eat it. Is it the same for you? Rahula nodded. He found it difficult to sleep at night because of his hunger. One day, after returning from begging, Venerable Ananda placed an earthenware pot on a three-legged outdoor stove. He gathered some pieces of wood and began to build a fire. Swasti came to see what he was doing and offered to tend the fire. Swasti was more skilled at such matters anyway. In no time at all, he had a fine fire blazing. Ananda lifted his baking bowl and poured something that looked like sawdust into the pot. He said, this is bran. We can roast it until it is fragrant and then offer it to the Buddha. Swasti stirred the bran with two small sticks, while Ananda told him how he met a horse merchant who recently arrived in Vajrana with 500 horses. Because the merchant saw the plight of the bhikkhus, he told Ananda that any time the bhikkhus were unable to receive food offerings, they could come to his stables and he would offer each bhikkhu a handful of the bran he used to feed his horses. That day he offered two handfuls to Ananda, one meant for the Buddha. Ananda promised he would announce the merchant's generous offer to the other bhikkhus. The bran was soon toasted and fragrant. Ananda scooped it back into the begging bowl and invited Swasti to accompany him on the walk to the Nimba tree. Ananda offered the bran to the Buddha. The Buddha asked Swasti if he had received any food offerings, and Swasti showed him the sweet potato he had been lucky enough to receive. The Buddha invited them to sit down and eat with him. He lifted his bowl with great reverence. Swasti held his potato mindfully in his hand. As he watched the Buddha scoop up the bran and eat it with grateful appreciation, he felt like weeping. After the Dhamma talk that day, Venerable Ananda told the community about the horse merchant's offer. Ananda asked them to visit the stables only when they had received no food offerings at all, as the bran was meant for the horses, and he didn't want them to go hungry. That night, beneath the moon, Sariputta paid the visit to the Buddha, sitting beneath the Nimba tree. He said, Lord, the way of awakening is so wondrous. It has the capacity to transform everyone who hears, understands, and practices it. Lord, how can we assure that the way will continue to be transmitted after you are gone? Buddha said, Sariputta, if the bhikkhus grasp the true meaning of suttas and practice what the suttas teach, if they sincerely follow the precepts, the way of liberation will continue for centuries. Lord, great number of bhikkhus so Sariputta said, Lord, great number of bhikkhus diligently memorize and recite the suttas. If the future generations of monks continue to study and recite the teachings, your loving kindness and your insight will surely extend far into the future. Buddha said, Sariputta, transmitting the suttas is not enough. It is necessary to practice what is contained in the suttas. It is especially important to observe the precepts. Without that, the Dhamma cannot last long. Without the precepts, the true Dhamma would quickly fade. So Buddha placed this importance on the practice of the suttas and observing of the precepts. Only then the Dhamma will continue. Otherwise, the Dhamma will die down. And one of the reasons why Dhamma died down, especially in India, and this is just, I'm like creating this thing, is because a lot of money that the sanghas received through the kings and all they gave, and they stopped practicing the Dhamma, stopped teaching the Dhamma. That was also one of the reasons why Dhamma slowly died down, right? So, but that practice that we have, that is the most important thing. And the way and reason why when we keep sharing things, keep coming back to the teachings again and again, that is only when the bulb goes on that okay, oh, this is what is it is. I need to practice this more, and this is what I've observed in my life, becoming more mindful of my cravings, anger, everything, right? Because coming back again and again to the same thing, right? It's like said that Bruce Lee thing that I don't fear a person who practices 10,000 things. I fear a person who practices one thing 10,000 times, right? So coming back to the Same teachings again and again. Okay. Is there a way of putting the precepts? Sariputta asked, is there a way of putting the precepts into a form that can be preserved for thousands of lives to come? Okay. Buddha said, that is not yet possible, Sariputta. A finished set of precepts cannot be created in one day. So it's like a gradual evolution, right? Cannot be created in one day or by one person. In the first year of the Sangha, we didn't have any precepts. Gradually, because of shortcomings and errors committed by brothers, we have created precepts, which is the monastic code Vinaya. Now we have 120 precepts. That number will increase over time. The precepts are not yet complete, Sariputta. I believe the number may rise to 200 or more. The final day of the retreat arrived. The merchant Agnidatta returned from his travels and was shocked to learn how much the bhikkhus had suffered from hunger. He felt ashamed and organized a meal offering at his home. He also offered each bhikkhu a new robe. After the Buddha delivered his final talk of the season, the bhikkhus headed south. It was a lovely journey. The bhikkhus walked without haste. They rested nights and begged in the mornings. After their meal and a rest in the cool forests, they continued to walk each day. Sometimes they remained for several days in a village where the people were especially delighted to receive the teaching. At night, the monks studied and recited the suttas before meditation and sleep. Okay. One afternoon, Swasti came across a group of young buffalo boys leading their buffaloes home. And before meditation and sleep, before sleep is actually very good, because then you program your entire subconscious mind with all the teachings. And so this is a lot. I have also developed this practice of listening to Pali chantings before the sleep. It's really cools down the mind, all the stress of the day, right? Or the any of the books on Buddha's teachings you can read. One afternoon, Swasti came across a group of young buffalo boys leading their buffaloes home. He stopped and talked to them, reminiscing about his own youth. Suddenly, he was seized with this longing to see his family. See, the seeds of longing, seeds of lust, seeds of anger, these are all seeds which are there. Just that he met those people, the seeds of longing, they came in his conscious mind. He missed Rupak and Bala, and most of all, Bhima. And that is why mindfulness is very important. Buddha said it's like a guard. You know, he still wondered if it was proper for a bhikkhu to think about the family he had left. Of course, Rahula told him that he had missed his family too. Swasti was 22 years old. He preferred the company of younger people, feeling more at ease with them. He enjoyed the time spent with Rahula the most. They often shared their innermost thoughts. Swasti told Rahula about his life as a buffalo boy. Rahula had never had an occasion to sit on a water buffalo's back. He had a hard time believing that so large a creature could be as docile as Swasti claimed. Swasti assured that the water buffaloes were the gentlest of animals. He told Rahula of the countless times he had lain on a buffalo's back as they walked home along the banks of the river. He would look up at the blue sky and drifting clouds, enjoying moments of peaceful leisure on the warm, smooth back of the buffalo. Swasti also told Rahula about the games he played with the other buffalo boys. Rahula loved to hear these stories. It was a life he had never known since he had been raised in a palace. Rahula said he wished he could experience riding on a buffalo's back, and Swasti promised him that he would somehow arrange it. Swasti wondered how he could arrange a buffalo ride for Rahula. They were both ordained monks. He decided that when they traveled in the vicinity of his home village, he would ask the Buddha's permission to go and see his family. He would ask if Rahula could join him. Then, when no one else was around, he would ask Rupak to let Rahula climb on the back of one of the buffaloes Rupak tended. Rahula could ride along the banks of the Niranjana river. Swasti planned to take off his monk's robe and ride on a buffalo too, just like in the old days. The next year, the Buddha spent the retreat season on a stony mountain Kalika. It was the 13th retreat season since Buddha's enlightenment. So it is like now 13 years have passed since his enlightenment. Meghya was serving as the Buddha's assistant. One day, Meghya confided to the Buddha that when he sat alone in the forest, He was disturbed by thoughts of desire and passion. He was concerned because the Buddha encouraged the bhikkhus to spend time alone in order to meditate. But whenever he meditated in solitude, he was confronted by mental obstacles. So Buddha's teachings, if you see the Pali teachings very, very clearly, he asked people to, monks to go in solitude, meditate, and get the four absorptions: first, second, third, four jhanas, right? And Buddha also says about getting that insight on impermanence. And then this is how you get into certain dimensions and full liberation, right? So he says, you ask me to go in solitude, but I get all these thoughts. The Buddha told him that practicing in solitude did not mean to live life without the support of friends. Wasting time in idle chatter and useless gossip with others was not beneficial to the spiritual life, but receiving the support of friends in one's practice was most important. Bhikkhus need to live in communities to support and encourage each other. That was the meaning of taking refuge in the sangha, right? The bhikkhus need to live in communities to support and encourage each other. That was the meaning of taking refuge in the sangha. The Buddha also told him a bhikkhu requires five things. The first is understanding and virtuous friends who share the path. The second is the precepts to help the bhikkhu maintain mindfulness. The third is ample opportunity to study the teaching. Find time for teaching, for studying the teaching. Fourth is diligence, right? We have to. And the fifth is understanding. The last four conditions are closely related to and dependent upon the presence of the first condition, that is, having friends to practice with. Because only when we have the friends to practice with, we have that motivation that, yes, we can also do it. We can also continue. That's the use of being in a sangha, practicing in a sangha. Meghya, practice the contemplations on death, compassion, impermanence, and full awareness of breathing. We'll just read one para more and then we will close. Meghya, practice the contemplations on death, compassion, impermanence, and the full awareness of breathing. What is the practice of meditating on death? This is, again, you can meditate on death. Some meditation you can find on meditating on death, or Buddha advised monks to go in cremation grounds and see how a body, is like exhumed and everything, which removes the attachment to the body. Compassion, which is loving kindness, meditation. Impermanence, which is insight meditation, vipassana, purely just seeing these things arising and falling. And full awareness, mindfulness, which we do, which is anapanasati, right? To overcome desire, practice the contemplation on the corpse, looking deeply at the 9 stages of the body's decay, from the time the breathing ceases to the time the bones turn to dust. If you want to read this, the Middle Discourses 10, Satipatthana Sutra, this is one of the mindfulness objects. When Buddha talks about mindfulness of body, this is what also Buddha says, that one of the ways you can be mindful of the body is see how from the time a body dies to it becomes dust. See this whole process and then reflect, right? So this is what is one. To overcome anger and hatred, practice the contemplation on compassion. It eliminates the causes of anger and hatred within our own minds and in the minds of those who have precipitated it. To overcome craving, practice the contemplation of impermanence, illuminating the birth and death of all things, arising and passing away. To overcome confusion and dispersion, practice the contemplation on the full awareness of breathing, right? If you regularly practice these four contemplations, you will attain liberation and enlightenment. Okay, so the chapter also closes here. Next chapter is even good, and it is the treasure of insight. So that we will discuss on Tuesday. So Monday will be the session on how to get started on Buddha's path. So Tuesday we will pick up the session on uh, the treasure of insight, right? Okay, so this is it. Anyone wants to share anything, please feel free to ask or share from your experience, from your practice, or anything. Thank you so much, Snehaji. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. We'll take a moment to check if there are anything comments. Okay, fine. So we will close the session for today, and we will meet next on Tuesday, 7 p.m. So please take care and have a good weekend. Namo Buddhaya.